Because of how that software has been built, speeding products to market and features and convenience and cost, all prioritized over security, we're actually living in a digital ecosystem that's pretty fragile. Install your updates, make better passwords, think before you click and use multiple factors. Exactly.
Should I start singing now?
Yeah. The research shows if you do those 4 things consistently, you will prevent the vast majority of cyber attacks.
All right, Jen, I'm so excited to be here with you again.
Yeah, right back at you.
I want to talk to you about your reaction with the PowerSchool Canvas hack, because I think we're finally seeing the merge of public and private sectors and like how important it is to educate both. And obviously we've been in the education space for a really long time, so I just wanted to hear your reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting when you think about the trajectory of my time at CISA, because one of the things that happened pretty early on during my tenure as the director was, you'll probably remember when the LA US Unified School District was hacked. That was a huge deal. And one of the things we did off the back of that, we took a look at the sectors that we called target-rich cyber poor, and we really focused on them because they were the ones that were being very aggressively targeted for ransomware by cyber criminals. So we looked at rural hospitals, we looked at the water sector, particularly important right now given what's happening in over 7 states with attacks from the Iranians. And we look at the education sector, and I actually brought somebody on my advisory board to help me focus specifically on education and how to reduce risk to schools. One of the things we did, we actually worked with EdTech, and they signed our Secure by Design pledge, saying that they would take certain steps to reduce risk to technology. And that was a great thing, but like at the end of the day, I think that shows what a hard problem this is.
Yeah.
Because unless there really is some sort of standards that are enforced across these sectors, it's really hard to incentivize them to ensure that their technology is as safe and secure as possible. And it's very hard for schools that are not well resourced to ensure that they're taking all of the right steps to be able to defend their infrastructure against, very well resourced and sophisticated nation state hackers. So, the problem goes on.
Yeah. I always say cybersecurity starts at home, because I truly believe that if we start learning from a young age, we can start using that throughout our lives. So it's not just technically a school, right? It's not a school problem. It's not a private problem. It's not a corporate problem. It's literally, we all have phones in our pockets. We all use technology every day. We need to start understanding how to protect ourselves. But I think something that you hit really hard was that you already started working with EdTech, right? So how do we start continuing that, right? You're still doing it a little bit, but how do we continue to do that? And also, how do we inspire corporations to also help with that?
Yeah, in these sectors that don't have a lot of resources, but yet get targeted because cyber criminals know that there's sensitive data, and they know if they go after a school system, then it can really impact parents who need to go to work or they need to be home with their kids. So it really is a target that, again, criminals and ransomware actors can go after, and they are dedicated to doing it. And so I think your point about, cybersecurity starts at home is a really, really important thing to think about. As you probably remember, one of the things we worked on when I was at CISA was our PSA campaign.
Yes.
Right? Secure our world. Exactly.
Should I start singing now?
Yes. Install your updates, make better passwords, think before you click and use multiple factors. All right, I wish I had my electric. But it really comes down to, as you know, probably better than most people, what are the basics, right? And so whether it's a teacher or whether it's a student or whether it's a mom at home, it's doing those things, making sure your devices are updated, making sure you use complex, unique passwords and a password manager. Be very, very mindful of emails now, even more so with AI, because AI is making phishing very, very hard to detect because these emails are looking perfect right now. And then, of course, my favorite, implementing multi-factor authentication. And so, the research shows if you do those 4 things consistently, you will prevent the vast majority of cyber attacks. So that's at the individual level. But back to your point on the EdTech manufacturers, they have a responsibility to ensure that they are designing and developing and testing and delivering technology that makes security the top priority. And I think that Secure by Design campaign,
I was about to say
right?
That. Secure by Design.
Secure by Design, but then also schools need to demand from their vendors that they meet a certain standard of security. So, it's an ecosystem approach. Individuals have responsibilities, the vendors have responsibilities, the schools that implement the technology have responsibilities. And so that's why at the end of the day, it comes down to the power of community, right? It's bringing together the community that's responsible for building the tech, for implementing the tech, for using the tech, and making sure that we're doing everything we can to reduce risk.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you your personal opinion. Obviously, we saw shiny hunters in those attacks, and obviously there were the attacks on the Canvas infrastructure, all of that. And what people don't realize is, pay the ransom or don't pay the ransom, and that's really not, we don't need to have that conversation because I feel like, beat a dead horse at that point. But what do you say to the parents of the students? Because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's solved, it's up and running, we're good to go. Like, what do you have to say to the parents that are thinking that everything's okay now? Because a lot of people think, oh, out of sight, out of mind, my kids are now back on, they can do their finals, we're moving on. But how do we make sure that parents are still protected?
Well, first, I think it's really important to go back to the fact that, parents need to understand how to protect their family, their finances, everything that's important to them. And so it comes back to, again, the 4 steps that I talked about. But just going back to this issue about ransomware, yes, whether they pay the ransom is not, whether they bring in somebody to help do the incident response, and you get the school back up and running, this is not just the problem of one school or one EdTech provider or one sector. We're really talking about the vulnerability of our critical infrastructure. And yes, schools are a part of that, but so is the water that we drink, the power we rely upon, our communications, our transportation. And because of how that software has been built with a focus on speeding products to market and features and convenience and cost, all prioritized over security, we're actually living in a digital ecosystem that's pretty fragile.
Yep.
And that's why we have to take this ecosystem approach. We really have to focus, I think, on one key thing, particularly in a world of AI-powered attacks, and that is resilience. Resilience, 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 right? Every business has to, frankly, imagine and embrace the worst case scenario. Yeah. I hate to say it, but we live in a highly connected, highly complex, highly fragile world. So you have to think about the threats and think about what the worst case scenario it is. You got to understand it, you got to plan for it, you got to prepare for it. You got to train and exercise, do those tabletop exercises. Like schools should be doing that. Yeah. You have to practice crisis communications. What do you say to the parents? What do you say to the rest of the community? How do you deal with this? So that when bad things happen, because they will. We need to internalize that. Yeah. Disruption will happen, but if you do all of those things, you'll respond more effectively, you'll recover more rapidly, and frankly, you will emerge stronger. That, to me, is what resilience is all about.
I love that. I know we're out of time, so thank you so much. I love talking with you, and hopefully people got some good information.
Fantastic.
We need to bring back the Secure Our World campaign.
That's what I'm talking about, sister.
Thank you so much.
You as well.